You are listening to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, What's Possible Interviews. Welcome to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, where we take a research-based, trauma-informed, and results-focused approach to quitting porn. This approach has been revolutionary and changed thousands and thousands of lives. I'm your host, Sarah Brewer. Hey, you guys, welcome to the podcast episode this week. I am so excited to share what I have with you today. I have multiple interviews for you of people who have overcome pornography. There truly is nothing more powerful than listening to the stories of people who have done what you want to do. So I'm so excited to share these experiences with you, share these interviews of members who are in the program who've quit viewing pornography to get all of their wisdom, to get all of their hope. The purpose of this, I want you to feel your energy rise and your belief rise as you listen to this, because when you listen to other people, I think I've said this before in the podcast, with some things, people are really vocal about what they accomplish, like weight loss, or they run a marathon, or if they make a lot of money, or if they have a successful business, right? All these things, people are super vocal about it. Like, yes, look at this amazing thing I've done. But when it comes to porn, there's some stigma around it. And so people aren't typically as vocal about, look at this amazing thing I did. I quit viewing porn. And so because we don't hear people talking about it very often, sometimes we think, oh, either one, not very many people struggle with this, or number two, no one really actually quits. But that isn't true. I want to change the narrative instead of it being like not very many people quit viewing porn. People struggle with this forever. No, it's normal to quit porn and it's doable and people do it every single day. And I see that over and over and over and over again in the program. I have you guys share your wins with me and, being a little bit more involved in people's lives as they join the program. I see that. And I hear story after story after story of people who quit viewing pornography. So that's the purpose of these interviews, is to help you build belief in yourself, to see that it can be done. My favorite mantra that I would love for you to borrow or to have, because I borrowed it from someone, is if they can do it, I can too. And of course, to hear these stories, to connect with them and to see what you can learn from these stories. You will be amazed when you hear what some of these people have gone through and the struggle that they've had with porn, where they've thought, Jesus is something I'm going to have to struggle with forever, to coming to a place of hope and being able to quit and seeing the amount of progress that they never thought they'd be able to see before. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about it a lot. I'll let them speak for themselves. So enjoy these interviews. Really quickly, there will be 2 episodes of these. So this week and next week. And it's a little bit of a lead up to our workshop, How to Overcome Your Most Difficult Urge. So that workshop is on June 7th. On June 7th, we have a brand new workshop. It's $6 to come and join us, learn how to overcome your most difficult urge. I talked about it in depth in last week's episode, but the purpose of this workshop is for you to take that most difficult urge, the thing that you struggle with the most. That could be a number of things, right? Days off of work, witching hours in the middle of the night, when your spouse is out of town after a test with hard emotions. Maybe you have a random urge that comes up once every 3 weeks. Maybe it's every day, whatever your most difficult urge is. We're going to take that and workshop it and work through it. I'm going to teach you a bunch of tools so that you can overcome this most difficult urge. I want you to get a quick win. I want you to feel empowered. I want to give you brand new ways to think about this urge and a specific applicable plan to handle this most difficult urge. And I want to do it alongside with you. So it'll be a live workshop. And then we'll also have a follow-up call on the Monday following this Thursday workshop. And in these calls, you will get coaching and help and guidance from me, and you can ask me any questions that you want. It's really one of the few opportunities that I have available at a very, very low cost, or for basically free, for people to come work with me in a live setting and get some individual help through a live call. Okay, so if you're trying to quit porn, you've got to be there. You can sign up at sarahbrewer.com/most difficult urge. No spaces, no hyphens, nothing, just the words most difficult urge. We'll also link it in the show notes. Okay, so go sign up for that and enjoy these interviews and drink in this success and these stories from these amazing people. Okay, you guys, I want to introduce you to Logan. He is awesome. He's right here on my screen. Logan, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about you and tell us your story?
Yeah, Sarah, thank you so much. Really excited to share my story. I think especially just because it does feel like such an achievement because it's been so long. Yeah, I mean, I've struggled with viewing pornography since I think the first time I was exposed, somewhere around 7 to 9 years old. And obviously then I didn't know what it was. I didn't really understand it, but it's something that definitely stuck with me and something that I definitely struggled with throughout all of my teenage years. And, I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And, things were great then and had a ton of great spiritual experiences and, definitely felt my connection with God and other things deepen. And, that was great. And I, for a lot of reasons, just assumed that would be it. That when I got back from mission, like it was so freeing to know that it wasn't going to be a part of my life anymore. And how soul crushing it was for me when, 6 months later or whatever it was, that there it was again. And, it almost seemed worse than ever, worse than before. And, it's been, now 14 years since I've been home. And so this struggle has been going on for years and years and years. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've actually tried to quit because after every single time I view, I think, okay, I'm actually going to quit. Like this is going to be it. I mean, and that's been the psychological process for the last, 20 plus years. And, I've tried other programs. I've paid for other programs in the past that have honestly yielded pretty limited benefit and fruit. I've met with a ton of church leaders, and you've mentioned it on your podcasts and in your program that there's, a lot of church leaders that will say, this is maybe something that you're going to have your whole life. And I have definitely experienced that. And, absolutely well-meaning. I will say that they, the church leaders and the others that I've tried to work with have been as accepting as possible and as loving, but as at the same time, trying to get you to really stop. And I think, gee, me too. I would love to stop.
Yeah.
And
we love those church leaders. Like I just want to make sure that I say that. I think I've said this a few times, but like, oh my gosh, salt of the earth, the best people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Volunteering their time, not paid for it at all, and just like want to help people. And so, maybe need a little more training on how to quit porn, but that's not their job. They're not supposed to know how to help you quit porn. Anyways, but that's awesome. They're just amazing.
Yeah. But they're, 100% well-meaning and, got so much from them. And if nothing else, I absolutely felt, just an acceptance and a love. And, anytime that I expressed confidence that I could do this, they reaffirmed that, so they were always there or always in my corner. I mean, some weren't as, in my corner, I felt like, but never had really a bad experience with it, I would say. But, this kind of went on and, I for the last, who knows, 10, 15 years, it's just been the same cycle, of slipping up, viewing pornography and feeling like, oh, it must be because I wasn't spiritual enough. It must be because I knew it. I didn't read my scriptures yesterday, or I didn't pray, or any number of items on my checklist of things I needed to do to be spiritual enough. And so that just added, to more of the shame and just added to more of the confusion of, why seriously, I just want nothing more. If I could just spend $20,000 and have this be gone, I would do it. I just want it gone from my life. And, that was just the continual cycle that it just continued and continued. And there's definitely times where I've gone a year or 2 years or long periods of time without viewing. And to be honest, those were some of the greatest times that I had ever had in my life. And it just made me want so much more. I just craved to get back to those points where, I wasn't just in this cycle of, binging and then building myself back up and feeling like, okay, no, this is the time. This is it. I've got it this time. This must be the time. I believe that I can do it. And then feeling just the crash again of going back to it. And, a lot of those bishops and things that I had gotten from other programs or online, it always brought that connection to, just notice how you're feeling and, notice, when you feel stressed or lonely or whatever it is, and just go for a run. And, it's interesting because for me, it was almost like I never saw a separation between an urge to view pornography and feeling stressed or lonely or bored or anxious or any number of difficult emotions that I had no idea how to manage and process. But to me, when I felt those, I just associated that with, oh, I view pornography. And, what's really cool is actually after I didn't learn this until after I had joined your program, but it made me realize, my biggest struggle all these years was I knew I have a strong faith in a loving Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, and I believe in the power of forgiveness completely. And I believe because I have that such a strong faith in that was one of the things that also led me to go to pornography. And that might sound a little backwards, but the reason I say that is because I didn't know how to process those emotions, but I did know that I could repent, and I did know that God would forgive me. And so it almost seems like, this is, in a lot of soul searching and through a lot of thought work through your program, it made me really realize that as awful as that process was to go through the, viewing and the shame and the frustration and the regret and everything afterwards, I also knew how to pick myself back up from that. I also knew that I could be forgiven. I believed that God would forgive 70 times 7. And I have experienced that to the umpteenth degree in my life. But because I had so much confidence in that, it almost just kept me in this trap because I didn't know how to process those emotions. And that's something that, I didn't really learn until I got into your program. I mean, when I first got in, I didn't really know what to expect, but it wasn't what I got. I was thinking, how is this going to help me get through this or overcome this? This is not what I needed, but how wrong I was, obviously. But we'll
Tell
get
me
into
a
more of that
little bit
later.
about
But
that.
I had seen your ad several times, and I'm like, man, if only that really did work. I mean, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? And you'd probably only been a couple of months, I had finally gotten to a place where I felt like I'd received a couple tender mercies and a couple insights of, impressions that I had received. And I had kind of started to believe that maybe I do have the power to overcome this.
Mm.
And I started just kind of having those little seeds. And it had probably been, I want to say, a month and a half that I had gone. And to be honest, for the prior 2 or 3 years, I probably had struggled the most. Like I probably just had the least faith that I could overcome this ever for the prior 2 years. And so to have that was a pretty cool experience. That I had started to feel that, maybe the power is in me. Maybe I can do this. And then I had started to see your ad a little bit, and I'm super busy, but I was like, what? Just like everybody is, I guess. But I was like, I need to make time for this masterclass. If it really is as good as she says, then I'm all in. And I watched the masterclass and I was just blown away. I'm like, what? How come I have not learned this for so long? Like so many things. And even just from the masterclass, I felt like, what? Just from what I've learned, I think that I might be able to get rid of this for good.
Yeah.
I might. And I had kind of gone back and forth for a few days. And I finally realized, I'm like, how many times have I thought to myself, I would pay whatever I needed just to get rid of this? And I was like, what? I have absolutely nothing to lose. If it turns out to not work, then it didn't work. But I can't say that I'd be willing to pay for this to be gone if I don't really mean it. Mm-hmm. And so truthfully, at the time, I really thought without it, I'd be okay. I think I will overcome this. And I signed up for the program. And I think it was the very end of the year, like maybe even like December 31st. And I started to go through things.
Emails about the price going up a little bit.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I definitely did. And I was like, well, I would rather just pay for it. And I was like, if it's anything as good as the masterclass, then it will be money well spent. And so I signed up for it, and I just started binging everything. I think I had probably gone through almost every module in probably a week or a week and a half, maybe.
Nice.
I just loved it. I ate it up. I don't have time usually during work and things to join on the live coaching calls, but I would probably watch or rewatch 2 or 3 a week. So I've probably watched 2/3 of all of them that are in there, catching up on a ton. But initially though, I went through it and I'm like, this is not what I need. This better be good. So I started going through the videos and I started going through them, and I was gradually, like piece by piece, I was more and more impressed with it. But truthfully, that river of misery that you talk about, it is such a real thing. And I think some of that, as I've kind of dissected it, I think some of it is kind of trying to reconcile, how come I couldn't get to this point from the gospel? Like, how come my faith in Christ did never get me to this point? And I think part of that could have been this frustration of, that disconnect that I found. But, as I went through the program, as I put things to practice, as I, did the thought work, the model that you teach has been absolutely incredible. I recognize that in my life all the time. And I recognize myself just mentally going through it in different situations all the time. And then I also find myself doing it for other people in my mind and thinking you're reacting and thinking the wrong way from your situation. But as I've gone through the program, I've just found so much evidence in the scriptures that back up everything that you're talking about. Yes. And I have so many scriptures that, reaffirm that. And I would say for the first few months, it was actually pretty smooth sailing. Like I had probably gone 4 or 5 months.
I just want to comment on what you had said about like the gospel and Jesus and trying to reconcile the two. And well, I just really appreciate you bringing that up, that this is the gospel. Like this is the gospel. And I tell them 2 things changed my life the most: finding Jesus Christ and the model. And I think that the model is the gospel. And when I read and search in the scriptures, I do find evidence of that. And you probably noticed in the program, like it's not religion based, and it's not
correct.
I don't talk about that really in the program, and I don't talk about it very much in my podcast either. And so I just say that because I know that I have listeners who aren't, members of a religion. And so I don't want them to think that if they do want to come and join us, they're going to be bombarded by that. Absolutely not. But like change and repentance, and they all work together. And I just really love that you said that and agree 100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And just to affirm, if you're not a member of any faith or Christian or religious at all, you're not going to get any vibe of that, I don't think, in the program. But I've just made my own connections to, my own beliefs and the faith that I have to, the things that I've learned. And, the connection with repentance to the model is just, it has, deepened my relationship with myself and with God so much. So it's really, really powerful.
I remember being like, oh, wait, this is grace. This is how I access grace. Okay, so I've learned about grace my whole life, but I haven't really got it. But now that I have these thought tools, okay, I know how to access
absolutely.
it. It's like just kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, it's super cool because, and like I said, because I feel like I was pretty smooth sailing, like I said, for a few months or several months, probably 4 or 5 months. I hadn't viewed any pornography. And, one of the things that I had to kind of adjust was, you talk about, counting and processing urges and things. And I feel like I didn't have a ton of urges. And what's crazy to me is I feel like I was the least restricted that I'd ever been. Like I was the least restricted with social media and different things. And I just had this freedom that I didn't feel like if I have Instagram on my phone, then I'm just bound to slip up, where that's how I felt prior to the program. And so, learning and realizing that, the situations of pornography are never going to go away. They're going to be there the rest of my life. Like you're never going to fully escape those situations. And so what I loved about the program is that it taught me how to be okay with that, how to get through that. And to the point where it doesn't faze you, where it doesn't make you feel powerless and that, I have this urge, and so I guess I have to give in. And it's just stuff that I had never learned, prior to that point. But things were really smooth sailing. And there was a situation that had come up where I just started to feel this immense shame. And I just have no idea really why it came. I hadn't viewed pornography or anything, but I felt as if I had. And I just had all this like old shame that it was just piling up. And it kind of stuck around for probably a week. And it was one of the most miserable experiences of my life. But as I just kind of stuck to what I had been doing and processed things, it actually taught me a lot of things. And one of those things particularly was, where is this shame coming from? I mean, God, if I have faith in a God, like God doesn't want me to feel this shame. I couldn't find any evidence where God wanted you to feel shame in the scriptures. There's no evidence that he wants you to feel terrible. Yes, of course, you're going to feel like guilty of doing wrong things, but the kind of shame that I was feeling is not what he wanted me to feel. And so I actually, because of that shame, I did end up watching and viewing pornography, which was really frustrating. But in the end, part of that frustration too that I had viewed was because I had been taught my whole life that the amount of time that I had gone without pornography is how I value where I'm at spiritually, in essence. And so what was really cool is that whole process of shame and everything forced me to really change my beliefs, really just challenge a lot of the thoughts and the beliefs that I had had previously. And I began to shift everything that I had thought previously about how I viewed myself with this challenge. And I just really learned that my anchor in my success had nothing to do with the time. It had to do with what I've learned and what I've experienced and the skills that I had gained and the concepts that I've learned. And so I actually created I think a notebook that has probably 30 different bullet points on it. I think I titled it like, why I'm closer than ever to never viewing pornography again.
Oh, I love it.
And it was just a bullet point of just all these things that I've learned. And anytime that I feel, that I start to question or doubt or whatever else, I go back to that notebook and I'll just start reading them until I feel good again, until I just have that faith again. Yes. And it's been so powerful to just put my anchor on Christ and my anchor on what I'm learning and the skills that I'm actually getting, instead of, it's been 6 months or it's been a year or it's been 2 weeks or 2 days, whatever it is. And so it's just been so powerful to learn those different skills and the changing the beliefs overall. That's been so powerful. Things that it hasn't even been just, revolving around pornography, but I've applied it to every area of my life. One that comes to mind is, I feel like, from an outside perspective, I'm college educated and have a great job, and my family and parents, they all probably think I'm doing great and very successful. But when I go to work or when I go to different situations, honestly, I have that imposter syndrome. I feel like I don't belong. Like for some reason, I shouldn't be here. And this is just an example of. So I want to illustrate this because this has nothing to do with viewing pornography, but it's something that has changed my life. And something that I approach every single day, which is my career. So because of the model and how I've been able to apply that in this situation, I actually no longer feel like, oh, I don't belong here, but totally the opposite. I have so much more confidence in my skills and my abilities and what I can contribute. And almost the opposite. I feel like there's no one better that you would want in this, instead of feeling like I'm some imposter. Yeah. And so, it's been so cool to just feel that shift, because I've been into my career for, over a decade now. And for that entire decade, have felt like I don't belong. Like there's people that are so much smarter than me, or they see things differently, or whatever else. And so, that confidence isn't just, as it relates to pornography, but every aspect of my life, for sure. So,
yeah. Yes, I say this is about so much more than quitting porn. And so thank you for illustrating that. Yeah. It'll apply everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get a little bit even more specific, I feel like I have a great family, loving parents, but for some reason, I've never had the greatest, or at least probably around the time that I probably started going to pornography when I was a teenager, I feel like I've never had the same relationship with my dad. Mm. And it's not that I don't love him or that we don't have a good relationship, but sometimes I never really let him into my life for some reason. It was almost like, this might sound really bad. This is probably harsher than it really is, but it's almost like I would tolerate him in some instances instead of really kind of letting him in. But it's been really interesting since all of these different changes that have happened, not just, overcoming, viewing pornography, but, in my career and family and different things. But it's really interesting to see how my nature has kind of changed to that. And I've been able to allow him to come in to my life. And I've actually reached out to him to invite him into my life a lot more. And again, not to say that he wasn't a part of my life at all, but my relationship is so much better with him, and not just him, honestly, probably everybody, because I let people in so much more. And so it's been such a healing and freeing process to go through. And I would say just every day, it's kind of something new. I would say for the better part of 20 years, my life every day has almost revolved around, okay, what do I need to do to stop viewing pornography? How do I get this out of my life? What do I need to do today to make sure that I don't view pornography? And then here comes, back with the checklist and things that I needed to do to be perfect at. Otherwise, that I'm sure if I forgot to do something, then I'm sure that's why that I, viewed pornography. But it was this total paradigm shift with my mind where I no longer woke up every day and thought, oh, how do I overcome this? And it was just a shift to, wow, every day what do I want to do? I can do whatever I want. And when I start thinking about, my life without pornography, and when I start thinking about what I can achieve and what's possible, it's really cool to just, it was scary at first because I'd never really experienced it to that level of just, I can really choose to do whatever I want to do. And so it was so freeing to be able to have that shift, that it was no longer about, revolving my life around what do I have to do to escape and run away from this. And instead of just, I had the opportunity to just choose what I wanted to seek out and to choose the life that I wanted to live. And this has only been, 6, 7, 8 months now, but it is such a massive change from where I have ever been in my life.
Talk about breaking chains.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And, breaking chains, I mean, that, again, everything that you taught when I first came upon it, it's just not what I expected I would need to break that chain. Mm-hmm. And it's just been so cool to see how it's just influenced every part of my life. And actually, one of your other coaches, one of the coaching sessions that she did, she mentioned a book. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Oh, no, it's called 90 Seconds to a Life You Love, that she had referenced. And this talks about, emotions and feeling those. But there's just one line in it that I just loved, which was learning how to feel your emotions and understand them and process them is essentially what keeps you living a life of default instead of living a life that you design. And so what I've loved is not just saying it in your program, but actually giving you the skills to do that, to really recognize your emotions, to recognize what you're feeling, to recognize what you're trying to escape when you go and view pornography, and really being able to really break those chains and to change those mindsets and to change the beliefs that I have had for, about myself this whole time. So it's been awesome to just feel that, those experiences and to go through it. And I think the biggest thing is just to feel those changes and to feel just the freeing nature that comes, with that.
Yeah. It's one thing to say, feel your emotions. It's another thing to actually do it. It's like a lot more difficult and, have to figure out how to do that. And right. It's the same idea as it's one thing to say, we're not going to live our life off of what other people want us to do. And then it's a whole other thing to actually do that.
I mean, I sometimes wonder, how come I was never taught this as a child, or, to, understand and to recognize this, because, the way that you respond to these emotions, it means everything. And that doesn't mean that I'm perfect at it yet. There's still definitely times where I'm like, okay, I need to be better in that area or whatever it is. But, just knowing what it is that I'm working on and knowing how to do it it's just so freeing. I mean, I can't really explain when it's just, you no longer fear the what if, an urge comes up, I'm just not afraid of it. It's okay. And that's just right in line too with my religious beliefs. Cause I feel like there's a scripture that I love from the Bible in 2 Timothy 1:7. And it says, for God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Mm-hmm. And, that I feel like through this struggle of this, up and down struggle of, viewing pornography and the shame that came after it and feeling like I'm never going to overcome this, and then building myself back up. I just realized that's not the process that God wants me to go through. He doesn't want me to feel powerless. He doesn't want me to feel this shame. He wants me to feel faith and wants me to feel the love that he has for me, as imperfect as I am. And he wants me to feel that I do have the power to make that change. It's not some, thing that has this control over my life, where it doesn't have to be. And so I've loved, it's just so cool to have that shift from, living your life of, structuring my life around this fear of what could happen, or if an urge comes up, to, making that transition to just having faith and having the confidence that you have what you need in order to face any of those challenges that come up.
Yeah. And having that like self-trust in yourself too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes through practice, right? I mean, so one of the things that I started to mention earlier, but probably sidetracked myself, which was I didn't feel like I had a ton of urges at the beginning that I could process. So one of the things that I kind of adapted, and this is one of the things that you talk about, is to learning how to self-coach and how to recognize where you're at, because nobody's going to know, more than me of where I'm at and what I'm feeling. And so one of the adjustments that I did make in the program that was really, really powerful for me was, instead of counting the urges, because there was probably a lot of months where I didn't have that many. Now, when they did come, it was really cool because I learned to really sit through that and to process it and to get through it. But one of the things that I did instead is that I counted, actually, anytime I had, a temptation to kind of lust, or to, from a woman that I saw in public, or something that I saw online, or whatever else, anytime that I had that emotion or feeling, I'd process it, even as small or quick little emotions. I would process that and use that as my counter. That's kind of what I counted through, tons of different times. But it's been so freeing that, and it's interesting. It was really cool to experience. I was watching a movie with my wife, and it was nothing, not an inappropriate movie or anything. But I remember about halfway through the movie, I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh! Like I haven't been like objectifying this beautiful actress that's on the screen. Like I haven't even been thinking about it in that way. I've just been watching the movie." And that was the first time probably in my life that I can remember experiencing that. And so it's been, really, really powerful to experience that time and time again, where, I know that the program is working, because little things like that, like it just never would have happened. I probably would have constantly had, images in my mind or something. And so it's been really powerful to know that the changes aren't just, skin deep or on the surface deep, but they're really making changes to me and the way that I think and the way that I act and the way that I am. Really been freeing and just enabling to know that I have those skills, and that, of what's come from the program, to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. I had someone say to me the other day, like, okay, but do you really like actually talk to people who change? Right. And because they're like, there's so much disbelief around it. Like, no, I've been told my whole life I'm going to struggle with this forever. I can't even imagine me being able to watch a movie without objectifying the person on screen.
Yeah. But that's been me, right? That's been me my whole life. Like I have never, a year ago, I never even could have fathomed being where I'm at right now. It's not even a consideration. Like I just never believed that was an option. And so that's what was so powerful, I guess, with the masterclass that I watched, because instantly I just felt like, oh my gosh, like maybe this can happen for me. Maybe this isn't something that has to plague me for the rest of my life. That's just how I viewed it for myself, was like, it was just something that plagued me, and I just could not want this to be gone anymore. Like my desire for that to be gone was as strong as it could be. And it's interesting, to have experiences after the fact that I honestly just feel so much gratitude that it wasn't ever taken from me, because the things that I've learned, the skills that I've needed to overcome it, have benefited me in every aspect of my life, and made changes to my relationships, to work, as I mentioned before, with my wife and my spouse and family and children. And so it's been so cool to see how it's impacted every area of my life. I had a child, new baby, a few months ago, and being present for this experience and being free from something that has just haunted me for my whole life. It's been such an incredible experience, to go through those experiences with family and to not have it be a part of my life, to just be free from it, to be fully present, to be fully there, to feel all of the love, it's brought my relationship with my family so much deeper. It's seriously is so, so powerful. So,
well, and I literally got chills when you said looking back, like, I'm glad it wasn't just taken from me, because that's one of the first things you said. You said, I would have paid $20,000 easy to like make it go away.
Yeah. It has turned to being something that I actually like, that I appreciate. Like one of the things that I just try to do anyways is to have, just practice kind of some gratitude every single day. And some of that may be kind of going through, the things that I've learned, through the program, and things that I've come to understand. And one of the biggest things is that gratitude for the program, for everything that you've taught us, for the skills that I've gained from it. Because I mean, truthfully, I think, before I signed up for the program, one of the things I think I said at the beginning was I was pretty confident that based on what I've learned in the masterclass, like, I just think that I will be able to overcome this. I'm so confident. Like, I've never felt this. Yes, I have built myself up and told myself that I'm going to do it, or that this will be the time, but I'd never felt that kind of confidence. I had a reason to be confident, to believe that, I really did have the power to make these changes. So I initially thought that back before I'd signed up for the program, I thought, you know what, if I don't sign up, I think there's still a good chance that based on what I've learned, I think that I'll overcome this. But now going through the program and learning what I really needed, I'm like, oh yeah, I wasn't even close. these things that I've learned about myself, and these things that I had been missing, like just the missing puzzle piece to why I could never figure this out, would still be missing if I didn't sign up for the program. And it's interesting because I just keep learning. So there's so many more insights that I just keep learning about myself. And I think that's the coolest thing is that you've taught us how to teach ourselves these things. You've given us the skills, you have the modules, and there's so many things that, may not even be written or said that you've gone through, that, insights that we learn about ourselves that are just life-changing and so empowering to experience. And so the program, I mean, seriously, it really has been life-changing. I can't adequately describe that, but it's just absolutely changed the course of my life.
Well, congratulations. And it's just incredible. You have such a great story. You've really showed up for yourself. I think it's interesting how, that's a common thing with porn. We're like, no, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out on my own. And I'm going to take care of it on my own. And I have this new information. I'm going to keep trying it on my own. But what typically happens is, like, we keep trying on our own, and, we're not really making as much progress as we could if we were having some help. And so, like, the act of faith that it is to say, no, like, how many times have I told myself I would pay to get rid of this? And now here's an opportunity, because it's not just a magic pill that you can take and make it go away. And I wish it was. If I had one of those, I would be throwing them out like candy, right? It's not, you have to trust in yourself. That's what that is. That decision is, no, I'm going to trust in myself, and I'm going to take a chance on myself, and I'm going to believe in myself enough that we're actually going to make this happen.
And I want to point out too, I mean, it's not just the act of paying for it and signing up for the program that got it done, right? I mean, I think there's a few things that you've kind of highlighted, that going through the modules and things, these are the milestones, this is great, but the people that will go through the thought work, the people that will go through the model, the people that will, challenge and change your limiting beliefs, those are the people that are going to make that difference. Those are the people that are going to see that success. And it's really just a dedication to everything that you've laid out in the program that has brought that success.
Yeah, there's a difference between listening and then applying.
Yeah.
That's the container for application that you really.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I've gone through that, I mean, it's definitely been work, right? I mean, there's been effort that has had to go in, and to be honest, I probably listened to, either your podcast or one of the milestones, or, one of the coaching sessions, or some of the bonus material, which is awesome, by the way. I've loved going through a lot of that bonus material as well that you have, the bonus workshops. But I will listen to that usually on my way to work and on my way home from work. And then, throughout, at night or during lunch hours or whatever it is, or in the morning, I will go through and do some of that thought work. Or even just when I have 5 minutes, I'll if I notice something, I'll write something down and get to it. But the effort that I've put in, and then the results that I've got from it, it's just so different from, just spinning your wheels. And that's why I felt like I've been, that for 20 years before I came to your program, I just felt like I was spinning my wheels. I'm putting in this effort, I'm putting in this work, and I just saw really meager results. Like I
Well,
just
and
never,
it's so much more effort too.
yeah,
Thinking about those cycles you'd gone through and the willpower and the exhaustion and the discouraged and just like that's so much more work than this thought work. It's just different. It's totally different energy.
yeah. The effort that you put in is like it almost in comparison, it just feels like I'm spinning my wheels. I'm just going through the motions. I'm just hoping and grasping at straws. Sometimes it seems going through all of this effort and in my case it was meditation and prayer and trying to be as spiritual as I could and felt like, oh, this is what's going to help me to get through that. And what's interesting, learning about over desire and learning about the things that I was buffering from and learning about how to actually approach that and deal with that has enabled me actually to become so much more spiritual and to just recognize the love that God has for us in such a deeper way than
Yeah.
I really ever have. And so it's been
Yes.
really cool to go through that process and experience a process that's effective, that has been tried and true, and that has worked for so many people. And I assume there's so many people, it's definitely worked for me, but it's been just so freeing to go through that process.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So good. I experienced the same thing where I just like my spirituality. And I say this because I sent out an email a couple days ago where I said, what doesn't work with quitting porn is praying more and fasting more. Some people interpreted that like maybe it's not important, which wasn't what I was trying to say. It's so important. But, also learning these skills alongside it, just build on whatever faith that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been my experience, is that learning these skills has just deepened my ability to build that relationship with God. It's made it so that when I do pray and when I do fast, I'm getting so much more out of it because I'm freed from this thing that has haunted me for so long. And yeah, it's just liberating to experience that.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. So, thinking about someone listening to this who's like, okay, but Logan's a unicorn and he can do it, but I can't. What would you say to that person?
I think there's a good tendency to always, our parents do a good job of telling us that we're the special one and that we're special people. But truthfully, as I listen to my story, I feel like it is so standard. I feel like there's so many people that have experienced the exact same things, that struggled with the same things, and had the same conversations with spiritual leaders as I've had, and have given up and reaffirmed that we're going to do it. This is going to be the time that we've quit. And I feel like my story is, in a lot of ways, I'm just me, and I think I'm pretty standard and pretty usual. And so, anybody that is thinking about it, anybody that is, wondering, God, is it worth it? I mean, I know it's a lot of money, and you're right. Honestly, it is. But at the end of the day, I would have paid so much more for the experiences that I've had, for the skills that I've gained, and for the type of life that it's given me now, and the type of life that I can choose to live and create for myself, past the limiting beliefs that I had, and especially the biggest one of, can I overcome this? Can I ever ditch this habit? And, knowing what I know now, I mean, I'd have signed up 100 times out of 100. There's no reason I wouldn't. For me, there's so much to gain and everything to lose. I mean, I just can't adequately describe where I'm at now versus where I was, a year ago. And so if there's anybody that is wondering, well, maybe it's just me and maybe I just got lucky. Yeah, I haven't gotten lucky for like 25 years with this, and nothing has worked. And I have tried so many different programs that have come highly recommended from, what I can find online or from spiritual leaders, whatever it is. I've tried in group stuff through our church, and it's not that they're bad, but it just did not work for me. And Sarah's program just gets right to the point. It just gives you the skills that you need. It teaches you exactly where you're at, why you're in the situation that you're in, and she gives you all of the education to get yourself out. And again, that doesn't mean that it's easy to do, but the skills are there. For me, it was never a lack of effort. It was never that I wasn't trying enough. It was that I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand why I was struggling with this. I didn't understand why this is something I kept going back to, that I obviously hated so much, because it was just ruining such a big part of my life. And so for me, again, it wasn't the lack of effort. I feel like I always had that effort, going into the program, it taught me where to apply that effort and what to spend my time on and how to spend that time. And to me, that was what has been so liberating. And as a side benefit, it's impacted every area of my life, which I just can't. I mean, I can't thank you enough for what you've done and for the way that it's transpired throughout my life. Over the last since I've joined the program. So.
Well, thank you. But I do want to reaffirm here that like you are the hero of this story. Like you are the one who has come in and made these changes, and you should allow yourself to feel like extremely proud of yourself for getting where you're at. Like,
yeah. I definitely do. I definitely feel that, which is why I have that notebook of the things that I've done and learned and the things kind of where I put my anchor now, instead of the time. But it's been so great. And yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's definitely filled me with much, much more confidence in me and what I can do and what I can achieve. The emotional regulation that I feel like I now have in my life, that I'm not so erratic with anxiety and guilt and shame and faith, and then more guilt and shame after that. And like just the emotional regulation that I felt is absolutely life-changing. I mean, it's so powerful.
Well, you think you're going to come in and quit porn, and you quit porn, but then you also get better relationships with people. You get more confidence, you get less anxiety. Like,
yeah, no,
you get a lot more from going through this process.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So
cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. Is there anything else that you want to say?
One of the things that I have been trying to figure out for the last, I guess, 14 years since I came home from my church service mission was there was a concept that I learned on my mission, which was to take your foot off of the gas and then you can put your foot on the brake. And for 14 years, I feel like I have been trying to figure out what is fueling this. I've been trying to figure out, why do I continue to happen? And I know that might sound crazy, but if you're struggling with this, you probably understand it. I could never figure out what the fuel was other than the sexual desires. Like I could never really figure out what it was. And so to me, like if you're struggling to understand, what is fueling that and what is keeping that going, to me, that's where the power of the program comes in, because Sarah will walk you through every single step of the skills that you need and what you need to understand and the concepts you need to know. And you'll be able to understand for yourself what is fueling that. You'll be able to recognize in your life, oh, this is what is going on. This is why I keep turning to that. And just knowing that one piece felt like brought me so close to just feeling like I would be away from pornography forever, just learning. Because now at least I understand what's going on, and I understand where my mind is at. And so that's the other thing. The last thing is understanding what's fueling it is crucial. And
so what was that for you? You don't have to go way into it.
Yeah.
What was
so
that?
I touched on it briefly, earlier, but the thing for me that was fueling it was all of these emotions that I had no idea how to process.
Yeah.
The line had become so thin for me of, feeling lonely or rejected or discouraged or anxious or stressed out, whatever it might have been. To me, those emotions were almost synonymous with an urge to view pornography, because they had just so automatic for me that, oh, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling an urge to view pornography. And so for me, learning that those were emotions that I had not learned how to process and to feel and to be okay with, but they were things that were keeping me going back to pornography. That cycle just continued. And we talked a little bit more about my view on why I would go that way, because ultimately I feel like I knew how to process and pick myself back up from viewing. But for me, those were the things that really kept me in that cycle, was that I didn't really make that connection. I couldn't make that connection and understand that, feeling those difficult emotions, again, they were just synonymous to me with feeling an urge to view pornography. They weren't really a separate thing in my mind. And so being able to recognize that and pinpoint that and to make those distinctions in my life has, been so freeing. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay. Again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing today. It's super inspiring for a lot of people listening.
Yeah, hopefully it's been helpful. And yeah, I would have just no reservations, for your program. I hope that everyone can experience what I have and go through those experiences. It's been, nobody could have adequately explained, the work and the changes that would happen, but also the joy and empowering feelings that would come from that, and the total 180 shift from where my life was before the program. So
yeah, awesome. Oh, so happy for you. If you're ready to apply what you're hearing in this podcast and finally overcome pornography for good, I'd love to be your coach. I've created a virtual program with the intent to give you everything that you need to quit. Once you join, you have lifetime access to the content and lifetime access to individual support through coaching calls and coaching boards. For more information, check out sarahbrewer.com/work with me.